What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, guys? Today we are going to be listening to the Senate floor proceedings live. Okay, hopefully we should be getting some new detailed information on what's going on with the Hills bill, the new stimulus bill that the Senate has been delaying posting. We watched them yesterday. First off, if you're new to the channel, here's why you should subscribe. You want to see these senators at work, and I'm going to be covering them every day while they're at work, as long as they're doing floor proceedings live. It's starting now. Normally it starts around 10 on Thursday. Tomorrow they'll start a little earlier. But yeah, we're here. We're here to get the information and find out exactly what their plan is with the Hills bill. All right, they have been repetitive for the past couple of days, though. I can't lie. They've been repetitive. They've been back and forth. One thing for sure, though, it is the Senate's responsibility to pass a bill now. The ball is in their court. We're waiting on McConnell. Mitch McConnell, if I said his last name wrong, sorry. Senate Majority Leader Mitch. We'll call him that. Just call him Mitch. He's been dodging this bill or creating a bill for close to 3 months now. We have to keep the facts facts. All right. I've been watching the floor proceedings for a couple weeks now, and he doesn't even bring it up. Now he brought it up, and now he wants to force it down the throat of all the senators, which is why you have a lot of senators opposing the bill from the Republican side as well. So it's interesting to see what's happening. I can tell you what I am expecting to see is I'm expecting to see Mitch out of nowhere say something about it, House of Representatives, and that excuse is not. I'm not taking that excuse because every time he comes up, he says, "Oh, something House Representative House." Before he was saying the House Representative was on a vacation and everything, and we're over here at work doing what we need to do. But he was not thinking about the American people. They were passing bills to hire new judges, get as much people into the office as possible. I want to give a shout out. We got a comment. If you leave a comment, I'll put it right here. Let me see if I can put it. Lift it right there. You go. Good morning. Good morning, Tro. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it and for showing up. Even if it's good morning. Oh, here we go. So we should be seeing prayer, and then they'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll go early morning business, and then we should be hearing from Mitch. All right. I love watching these. It's a lot of drama involved. A lot of pointing fingers. I love it. I'm here for all the beefing. After the prayer, they get to beefing each other. I love it. All right, I'm gonna put the screen larger, guys. So if anything, just know I'm here. All right. I don't know. It looks like they're waiting for who are we waiting for? I guess they're doing the Pledge of Allegiance. Were they doing it? No. Oh, they were doing prayer first. Okay. Okay, so here comes the prayer, guys. When they start the prayers, you barely can hear them talking. All right, let's put it. Eternal God, our star of hope, continue to be the light that enables us to see the way. Lead our lawmakers to accomplish your work on earth, making them your agents for justice, truth, and freedom. Inspire them to be stewards of your will as you answer their cries for help. Lord, your prevailing providence, and surround them with the shield of your love. Defend them with your heavenly grace and give them the courage to face perils with total trust in you.
We pray in your sovereign name. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, guys. So we should be going through some early morning businesses. From time to time, I will be refreshing the screen so you can get a clear view. What's up? I'm here. All right, I'm refreshing the screen right now. And we'll be hearing some early morning business. And then from there, we should hear from Mitch or one of his representatives talk about what's going on with the stimulus bill. Okay, no early morning business today, apparently.
President,
Oh, yeah.
1 minute for morning business, please.
Without objection.
Yeah. Watch the news or read the newspapers, and you know that there's a lot of deliberations going on to help.
Let me know if it's too loud, okay?
We have people being unemployed, the pandemic we're fighting, and getting the economy up and running. So while those negotiations are going on, every once in a while, some of us on this side of the aisle try things to help people that have. So a few days ago, the Democratic leader objected to one of the items, which was a short-term extension of the federal unemployment supplement that was created by this body as part of the CARES Act. And remember, the CARES Act passed unanimously by this body back in March. So those things are running out, and we're trying to get them extended. This effort to get this short-term extension was to provide for Americans who need the continued help while talks continue about a longer extension and even more relief. Common sense ought to play a role. There doesn't seem to be any downside to a temporary extension, but there apparently was a political upside to the other side blocking it. I hope we can work together and that the Democrat leader will let his members work with the Republican colleagues on a path forward. This partisan my way or the highway approach just doesn't work, particularly in a body where it takes 60 votes to get things done. So these objections are not how we got the CARES Act passed in the first place. It's not how we'll continue to deliver for the American people now if we don't get more cooperation. I yield the floor.
Madam President.
Majority Leader is recognized.
First, Madam President, I extend the Senate's condolences to the people of Lebanon following yesterday's horrific explosion in Beirut. Reports indicate that at least 100 have died and more than 4,000 others were injured. The Lebanese people have seen more than their share of tragedy: civil war, Syrian occupation, terrorism and assassination, sectarian violence, economic and political corruption, the burden of caring for more than 1 million refugees fleeing Syria, now, unfortunately, once again, in the wake of great tragedy, the Lebanese armed forces will have to demonstrate they serve the state of Lebanon and its people, not a political party or sect. Since the end of Syrian occupation, the LAF has demonstrated it can be unifying a national force, largely free from sectarianism that corrodes other Lebanese institutions. Now it must do so again. The people of Beirut are beginning the hard work of rebuilding their city. Their nation continues its hard work to restore its democracy and sovereignty. On these fronts, the Senate and the American people stand with them in their journey. Now, an entirely different matter. Stop me, Madam President, if the story I'm about to tell sounds familiar. The Speaker of the House, the Democratic leader, summoned President Trump's representatives to the Capitol. They meet for a long while. The Democrats emerged saying they permitted a few millimeters of progress, but a deal is still far off, leaving millions of Americans in the lurch. Then they continue to push their $3 trillion wish list that even their own Democratic colleagues brushed off as absurd. We've had variations on this theme daily for more than a week now. Yesterday, the Speaker of the House called their far-left proposal quite a well-developed strategic plan. But even members of our own caucus know that's not true. Back when the Speaker's wish list was rammed through the House, one Democratic member came right out and said the so-called HEROES Act, quote, isn't a plan, it's a wish list. Another said that members of her caucus had taken the bill as, quote, an opportunity to make political statements that go far beyond pandemic relief and has no chance at becoming law. Others said it was not focused and, quote, partisan gamesmanship. These are Democrats, I'm quoting. Even the Speaker's own rank and file know it's comical to say your strategic plan for COVID-19 involves sending taxpayer checks to people here illegally, paying people more not to work than essential workers earn by working. Soil health programs, so-called environmental justice grants, and a massive tax cut aimed directly at wealthy people in New York and California. That last point needs special attention. Now, in ordinary negotiations, members of Congress like to bring things home for their core supporters. But it's a little too on the nose for the Speaker from San Francisco and the Democratic leader from New York City to be holding up $1 trillion in emergency aid for the entire country, unless they get big tax breaks for millionaires in their hometowns. Economists across the political spectrum say this demand of theirs is a bad idea. 94% of the benefit would flow to people who make north of $200,000. In the words of one progressive economist who ought to be on their side, quote, this is not a good idea. It would not help the economy heal, and it would not benefit the people who need help. But my friends in the Democratic leadership are not deterred. More than a week into these talks, they're still threatening to block any and all relief for struggling people unless big city penthouses get these tax cuts. Democratic leader said just yesterday he's still holding out for this. But this isn't the only bad policy they're hung up on. The Speaker and the Democratic leader continue to insist that federal unemployment is more not to work than the essential workers who kept working. Let me say that again. The Democratic position then that these millions of laid off people should get nothing unless they get a higher salary than the people who are still working. This isn't just bad economics. If you're trying to reopen a country, it's also just simply unfair in the simplest terms. Republicans want to keep providing some supplemental federal unemployment. We just don't think it's remotely fair for the federal government to tax essential workers who kept working every day so that Uncle Sam can pay their neighbors a higher salary to stay home. I'll say that again. We just don't think it's remotely fair for the federal government to tax essential workers who kept working every day so Uncle Sam can pay their neighbors a higher salary to stay home. Outside of the Democratic leader and the Speaker of the House, even Democrats concede it's a bit upside down to pay people more not to work. Last week, the House Democratic Majority Leader said, quote, it's not just $600 or bust. Our colleague, the senior senator from Maryland, has said, quote, we certainly understand we don't want to have higher benefits than what somebody can make working. And just yesterday, the senior senator from West Virginia stated plainly that Speaker Pelosi's position was untenable. Quote, I don't think we're going to stay at the 600. Let's bear in mind even 200 would be 8 times what Democrats put in place with unified control of the government during the last crisis in 2009. It's unthinkable they will hold every bit of relief hostage unless we land back at $600 and pay workers a bonus if they do not help to reopen our country. Maybe the Speaker and the Democratic leader will get the memo from their colleagues sometime soon. And then there's Democrats' demand for $1 trillion more to hand out to state and local governments, even though they've only spent one-fourth of the money we sent them back in March. Yesterday, I received an urgent letter from the city of Malibu, California. And I promise, I'm not making this up. They asked Congress for hundreds of billions of dollars for state and local government because they have had to delay their conversion to an all-electric city fleet. I guess that's an emergency in Malibu when they can't keep buying brand new electric cars as quickly as they would like. Well, this emergency is hitting most of America very differently. My constituents in Kentucky have bigger problems. They need actual relief straight to struggling families, and frankly, they need it yesterday. Not $1 trillion slush fund for bureaucrats that haven't spent what we sent them back in March. Those are just some of the fantasy items that are in the Democrats' demands. I haven't even gotten to all the important things they left out. Their bill costs 3 times as much as Senate Republicans' HEALS Act, but they skip over major serious things that we took care of. Democrats propose fewer resources than Republicans for the fund to help schools reopen safely. Democrats completely shortchanged the successful Collins-Rubio Paycheck Protection Program, where our bill would have funded a whole second round. Democrats have no real equivalent to our proposals to strengthen domestic supply chains for PPE and critical resources. And they propose no legal protections at all for the doctors and nurses who fought this unknown enemy, or the schools, universities, churches, and businesses trying to reopen. Apparently, those soil health experiments and diversity initiatives didn't leave enough room for the critical policies that would actually help the country. But remember, our Democratic colleagues told us from the beginning their goal was never a targeted plan for COVID-19. In March, one of the Speaker's top lieutenants said Democrats should view this deadly disease and mass unemployment as, quote, a tremendous opportunity to restructure things to fit our vision. Speaker Pelosi herself called this crisis a wonderful opportunity. And it's clear they view it that way, because while Americans are struggling, the Democratic leaders have moved about 1 inch in 8 days. For the sake of the millions and millions who need more help, let's hope they decide to get serious soon.
So there you go, guys. You got Mitch.
Under the previous order, the leadership time is reserved.
I'm gonna just keep it 100. Mitch said the Democratic Party hasn't moved in 8 days. They moved 3 months ago. Okay.
Clerk will call the roll.
Let's keep it 100. They moved 3 months ago, and I'll keep saying this. And it's not that I'm trying to just defend one party. There's still more from the live stream. I'm gonna put it. I had to refresh the screen, but the thing about it is they moved 3 days ago. So all this name calling and him coming up and being the leader, you would think he would just start talking about negotiating, bipartisanship. Nothing was being said. Nothing was being said except calling, like name calling. To me, I think that's funny. You're the leader and you're just name calling people. Oh, Democrats, this, that. Whatever happened to bipartisanship? Why can't we get this bill done? Right? There's obviously some fact that both sides don't want. Put it on the table and cut it out. That's it. What was said is there was a lot of stuff that the Democrats really love about the HEALS bill. All right, I'm going to put it out there. There was a lot of things that they agreed on. So certain things that weren't mentioned could probably be put on there. Okay, we got some comments. I'm gonna put the comments up right here. Let me read T. Foshora. I wonder how many times has the Democrats in his speech instead of saying what the Republicans want, right? Now, I will say this in what I've been seeing by the Democrats, right? Democrats have been bringing up the issue of a stimulus bill for months, now in the Senate, right? So this is how it plays off. All right, the Senate starts like normal. Mitch comes out, he says his words, he talks about maybe a bill or appointing judges. They come up with their own, things that they already had scheduled. Then you have Chuck. Shows up and says, "Look, what's going on? Why are we worried about this? Why is Mitch McConnell, Majority Leader, avoiding bringing up the conversation of having a bill? It is his job. He waited. He waited until this like 2 weeks to start proposing a new bill. We can't. We got to call it how we see it, man. That bill was the House of Representatives proposed a second bill 2 months, maybe two, almost. I think next week would make officially 3 weeks, 3 months. They proposed the bill. We got to call it how we see it. Like, yo, it don't matter if that bill was super garbage, right? All the things that Mitch said. You don't wait until everything expired to bring it up. This was a grand opportunity for Mitch, and I keep getting at Mitch. This was a grand opportunity for Mitch. Same way they mentioned the Democrats saw this as a grand opportunity. Same thing for him. I wouldn't be surprised if he's retiring this year. He doesn't care if he gets reelected. I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of people are upset in his hometown, Kentucky, which he mentioned in his speech. But here's the thing about his speech. He mentioned something about how there's a $1 trillion bill that goes to the states that most of it hasn't been used, right? And he also mentioned that yesterday he mentioned that his state only used 6% of that money. So where's this connect? Because you have a lot of people hurting in his state. Where's the disconnect? Why is that money not being used? Who's it for? Is it something that people have to apply for but can't get to or not aware of? That's like poor government right there. They're gonna put that money somewhere else. All right, let's see. And we got to call it as see it, man. Like I do agree with some of the policies that the Republicans should put in the bill, but come on, bro. If you're not even coming to the negotiation tables with, okay, he just said it himself, this beginning the speech, he said he's not coming to the negotiating tables. You got president over there, you got Stephen Mnuchin, Secretary of Treasury Stephen Mnuchin, you have Nancy Pelosi from the House, the Speaker of the House, then you have Chuck Schumer there, but he doesn't show up. He doesn't show up to the meetings. It's like a big kid with a hissy fit, or he's being told not to show up to the meeting because he don't care. You know what I mean? Let it hit the fan. And frankly, there's a lot of members in the Senate Republican Party that don't want the bill. 20 of them. All right. Mitch is trying to do anything right to do anything right now. As far as anything being said about Mitch, he's playing super politics right now. And this was all planned. They of course looked at the bill once it first arrived. They said when the bill arrived almost 3 months ago that the bill would be dead on arrival. That's what they said. But of course they looked at the bill. They had plenty of time to dissect it. And they just proposing their answer a week and a half ago, on the eaves of the PPP, which is expired, and not only I was drinking some water, and the unemployment, which has expired. All right. If they don't get no unemployment by this week, which would have to be, they would have to come up with some resolution by tomorrow, right? Or I wouldn't be surprised in them going home on Friday, because if they go home on Friday, guys, without pulling out something, it's going to be hell to pay, because people are going to be home. They didn't get a check. So how can they go buy some groceries? Unless they're going to get some form of a SNAP card, or like a card you can use to purchase groceries, if that's what they're going to do. But then unless they're going to transfer it to the card they already have or account, But most likely they're gonna want to give people snap cards instead of sending that money to the account if they want to do that. But then what? Another thing is, how are people going to how are people going to pay their insurance, whatever insurance that they have available? All right, let me refresh the screen real quick as we wait for Senate Minority Leader. I'm not as far as name calling. I'm here for it. I love the name calling. I love the yeah this. But if you're the leader, be a leader. Don't be a pointer. Come on, you're the leader. Your job was to bring this bill up. Now you're bringing it up late, and you getting people upset. Come on, what you got people starving? Look, everybody would love extra money coming to them, especially during these sensitive times. You know, we have subscribers I've talked to that are in the entertainment, nightlife type of industry where they are bartenders. This is something Chuck talked about. No, I don't know if it was Chuck. It was another gentleman. He went home. He's from Chicago. The senator from Chicago. I forgot his name. Right. He talked about a speech yesterday where he said something about how he went home this past weekend and he said he wanted to talk to people, right? He said, look, I want to talk to people who are hurting right now in unemployment. Give me 5 people, right? Two of them were working in the nightlife industry, bartender. I forgot what was the other one. And it's like, yo, it's kind of hard now. Oh, the other one was a woman who operated lights for concerts and stuff like that. And so obviously she's been, this is an industry that's interesting to work in, and she said she was the first to get in it as a woman, and now all of a sudden, she's struggling right now. Let's put this thing in here. We're waiting on the next person to talk, see what's going on. Yeah, so there's a lot of people out here that actually struggling right now because they can't make ends meet. Their livelihood has been erased. Growing up, I went to a particular school where they would teach people about hospitality. Me coming from Miami, hospitality and tourism. And when you think about terms of like how many hotels are shut down, even where I'm at, I'll drive by and I see a lot of hotels shut down. These are people that without a job. They just, now they have to figure out ways to scrap money, and they got real bills they need to take care of. Right. The funny thing is, they want people to get back to work, but is there any work to get back to? Meanwhile, the middle of the country is reeling from the pandemic. Keep the comments coming, my brother. All right, so irresponsible. Okay, I think we got Chuck coming in. There go Chuck. So let's hear what he has to say about what's going on. New stimulus, deeds. We got to read between the lines, because when they do these talks and talk about different bills, we get some more insight on what's going on. But from my understanding, the position of the Republicans is they really want to push a bill that would protect first responders, which I think is kind of dope. So there aren't any lawsuits, because it can get probably crazy. Like, hey, you gave me COVID. Like, how can you prove that? It's something that they should put in and fine line between them. I could see them putting something like that. So that's something I agree with the Republicans on putting that in there. I don't see what's the problem. And there's supposed to be a bill that was proposed through the Democratic Party that was supposed to help. Make sure they're not talking. Yeah, they're not talking. Yeah, that was supposed to be something for medicinal use marijuana. I don't know how that ties into a bill, but the verbiage. It's all about the verbiage. So we need to get some more detail on that. But that's what the Republicans are saying about the Heroes bill that the House of Representatives want to push. Let's see what Chuck has to say. There was a lot of words, man, back and forth yesterday, and I wanted to be there for all of it, but I had to I had to leave. So we'll do Chuck, and I have to promise myself to leave, because it gets better after Chuck. But we'll just do Chuck, and we'll do Chuck, because I have to get to go out and do some run around in the city today. So I do appreciate all you guys that are here watching. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys showing up. Guess Chuck is not going to talk right now. Let's find out. Yeah, a lot of people are. You talking about airport employees that ain't, hey, there's not that many flights going on. So you guys are laid off, and I guess our senior staff gets gets to continue to work because of that. All these other guys probably are on standby. You got your cooks, like that tourism, this the travel. It's crazy how once you stop traveling and closing these things down, a lot of people are out of work, man, which makes you think like, is my job secure? Some say that the most secure jobs in the world are in the technology field. Not even that, but you got to be in particular. But for sure, one of the most secure jobs is in the healthcare field, because there's always going to be a need for someone to help somebody in the healthcare field, which is one of the reasons why I do agree with the proposal of helping protecting first responders. To what length, as long as they're following the proper protocols in place. If anything, I don't want them to have immunity, meaning like if something happened, they get immunity based off of the bill. Okay, I think here we go. We got Corin call. Should be hearing from Mitch any second now. It's like a 20-second delay or something. Oh, you can read the subtitles. He's already going in. Here we go. He always does that.
Madam President,
There we go.
Minority Leader,
I ask unanimous consent to quorum be.
without objection.
Now, negotiations on the next round of COVID relief continued yesterday and will continue again today. Speaker Pelosi and I are making progress with the White House, but we remain far apart on a large number of issues. As I mentioned yesterday, the fundamental disagreement between our two parties is the scope and severity of the problem. This is the greatest economic crisis America has faced in 75 years, the greatest health crisis in 100. There must be a relief package commensurate with the size of this historic challenge. A skinny package, a package that doesn't solve so many of the problems America faces, would hurt the American people, and we cannot have it. But our Republican friends are wedded ideologically to the idea that government shouldn't take forceful action, that we should leave the welfare of the American people to the whims of the private sector. It just doesn't work like that, especially in time of national emergency. The private sector cannot do it. So while we have started to generate some forward momentum, we need our partners in the White House to go much further on a number of issues, let alone the Republican Senate, where 20 or so Republicans, by the majority leader's admission, don't do anything. One example, the administration has finally come round to the view that we should extend the moratorium on evictions, but they continue to refuse to provide actual assistance to the renters themselves. What good does that do? We can prevent Americans from being kicked out of their apartments for another few months. But if they can't pay the rent, they'll be right back at square one when the moratorium expires, with even more unpaid bills piled up. Extending the moratorium only solves half the problem. Republicans continue to wall support for state, local, and tribes, who've already shed more than 1 million public service jobs this year and will continue to lay off teachers and firefighters and more if Congress does nothing. In the early days of the crisis, state and local governments fought this disease basically on their own. The Trump administration couldn't be bothered to coordinate a national response or supply them with the necessary resources. And now Leader McConnell and others on the Republican side say our state should go bankrupt. They put zero into their proposal, state and local. I'd like Republican senators to go home and tell their governors, tell their mayors, tell their county executives, we want zero for you. That's what our leader is for. Well, it's not acceptable. On unemployment insurance, a few Senate Republicans have belatedly accepted the view we should extend the enhanced benefit at $600 for an extended period of time, as Democrats have proposed and voted for in the House. Of course, many Senate Republicans, most Senate Republicans, still object to that. At least a few have come around. At the moment, however, the White House is not there. And we are not going to strike a deal unless we extend the unemployment benefits, which have kept nearly 12 million Americans out of poverty. The same goes for health care, testing, and tracing. How is it that everyone in the White House can get tested, everyone in the NFL can get tested, but average Americans still cannot access tests easily or get results back fast enough? More than 7 months into the crisis, this administration does not have a plan for the adequate capacity for testing and contact tracing. It's a shocking failure on the part of the Trump administration and the Republican senators. So Democrats are insistent that we provide enough resources to finally slow and defeat this disease, the single most important thing to our recovery. The American people know that the Trump administration and their Republican adherents in the Senate are to blame for this huge failure in testing and tracing. They demand we act and act fully now, not with some half-baked, poorly funded plan that won't do the job, which is where the administration seems to be at right now. And Democrats are insistent that every American should be able to vote this November, safely and confidently, in person or by mail. COVID has affected how we will vote. Many more will vote by mail. There will be a need for polling places, maybe more of them. The need to space people out as they vote. We are not going to stop fighting until state election systems and the post office, which is part of getting the mail there on time, get the resources that they need. Elections are a wellspring of our democracy, and the only answer as to why neither the Republicans in the Senate nor the White House want to do anything about it is they fear a free and fair election. That is inimical to the core of this republic. We're going to keep fighting. And there have been alarming reports about recent failures at the post office, about residents in Michigan and Pennsylvania not getting their medicines or their paychecks for 3 weeks or more. The Postal Service is vital, and not just for elections, but every single day. The new postmaster, Mr. DeJoy, a big donor to President Trump, which many believe is his main qualification as to why being chosen, has enacted new guidelines at the post office that experts say cause severe delay in mail delivery. And then he refused for weeks to even hold a phone call with Democrats, including myself, about this issue. I called 3 times. Mr. DeJoy evidently didn't have the time to call back when I was so concerned about mail delivery in New York and in the rest of the country. So we've insisted to Mr. Mnuchin and Mr. Meadows on meeting with Mr. DeJoy, which will take place later today. We need to resolve the problems at the post office. There's lack of funding, and there are new regulations that get in the way to the timely delivery of mail. We must resolve those in a way that allows mail to be delivered on time for the election and for the necessities that people need. Each and every one of these issues is critical, and there are many more. We need answers and movement on all of them, not just on 1 or 2. But some of our Republican friends seem content to pass a bill, any bill, so they can check the box and go home. We cannot do that. We cannot agree to an inadequate bill and then go home while the virus continues to spread, the economy continues to deteriorate, and the country gets worse. So we're going to keep slogging through step by step, inch by inch, until we achieve the caliber, the extent, the depth and breadth of legislation that the American people need, deserve, and want. In stark contrast, the Republican leader has decided that he'd rather just lob partisan hotshots from the Senate floor this morning rather than join productive negotiations. It is difficult to listen to the Republican leader spin such a malicious fiction about why Congress has yet to pass another round of relief, when he can't even sit in the room with us and negotiate, when he can't even create a modicum of unity in his disturbingly divided caucus. For 3 months, Leader McConnell and Senate Republicans put the Senate on pause when it came to the coronavirus. As COVID threat spread throughout the South and West, as states hit daily records for new cases and hospitalizations, as 50 million Americans filed for unemployment, the Senate Republican majority merrily hummed along as if it were living in a different universe. Leader McConnell scheduled confirmation votes on right-wing judges. The chairman of Judiciary and Homeland Security held hearings on the president's wild conspiracy theories about the 2016 election and conducted desperate fishing expeditions, hoping to dig up dirt on the family of the president's political rival. When the Republican majority did put legislation on the floor, it wasn't even remotely related to COVID. All through that time, Democrats came to the floor to practically beg our colleagues to consider COVID relief legislation. We asked consent to pass urgent relief no fewer than 15 times, and every single Republicans blocked our requests. Once Senate Republicans finally decided to write a bill, it was the legislative equivalent of a dumpster fire. Republicans bickered among themselves for over a week and a half before finally giving up. They didn't even release a coherent bill, just a series of nibbling proposals ripe with corporate giveaways and K Street carve-outs. Republicans proposed a tax break for 3 martini lunches, but no food assistance for hungry kids. $2 billion to build a new FBI building to boost the value of a Trump hotel, but not a dime to help Americans afford the rent. And then, to top it all off, almost as soon as the Senate Republican plan on COVID was released, it became clear that even Senate Republicans didn't support it. President Trump called it semi-irrelevant. Semi-irrelevant is what President Trump called the Republican proposals. Leader McConnell basically gave up and left Democrats and the White House to negotiate the next bill. So it strains reason for Leader McConnell to criticize those of us who are actually engaged in negotiations while he is intentionally staying out of them. His Alice in Wonderland rhetoric, flipping everything on its head and accusing the other side of the sins that Leader McConnell is in fact committing, is extremely counterproductive. Since Senate Republicans clearly cannot reach a consensus, any agreement is going to require a lot of Democratic votes. Suffice it to say, the Republican leader's rhetoric and positions are not helpful in that regard. While Republican leadership continues to sit on the sidelines, Democrats are in the room, working hard. That's what the American people expect of us. They want to see us working to get something done in this time of extraordinary challenge. I yield the floor.
All right, guys. So I know there's going to be someone else to keep it going, but we're going to stop right here. And
First, I thank the senator from New York.
I
Thank him for the negotiations that he's engaged in.
yeah, we'll stop it right here, guys. So we pretty much got it. I think the idea of FBI building for $2 billion. What did he say? 2 billion, or did he mention 2 million? So basically, everything Chuck said is something I mentioned. Everything he from the T. And so we need a bill by the end of this week. The American people need a bill. They owe it to us. Hopefully we hear something today. Hopefully we, if anything, we find out what's going on with Mitch. Maybe he'll attend these meetings. And from what I understand, the Republicans, don't want to release one full bill. They want separate bills for separate issues. And so that's from what I'm hearing. So I think the bill that they should put out right now is something that would help the American people pockets, which is instead of unemployment, but how much are they going to do? Then that I don't think they want to do 600. What would be a loud number if it's not 600? If it's not 600, could it be, let's say, 400? What is that? 800, 1600 a month compared to 24. Let me know, guys, what's your thoughts on that. I wanted to thank all you guys for watching this video and watching these. These are really interesting to me. I like to start my day listening to these guys curse each other out. It really gives me energy to see what the inner workings look like, the structure of the Senate. It's very fascinating. The debate, the bickering back and forth is something I like listening to. But I wanted to say thank you guys for watching. More on the way from this channel. I will be here tomorrow. I think tomorrow they start the live streams 30 minutes earlier. But if just in case, I might be starting earlier, but I do appreciate when you guys show up. As far as anything that's going on in the bill, just to recap, Republicans want protection for first responders, which is super dope. Also, it seems like they want to give. I think the way they want to do it is to help out big companies out. I think the idea is awesome as long as they're putting it into place where there's not any immunity involved. As long as that person, whoever is dealing with the coronavirus or something like that, first responders or companies or structures or schools, as long as they're following procedure, protocol or steps that the government has put in place, that they shouldn't get a lawsuit. As long as they put the standard, then they shouldn't get a lawsuit, provided nothing changed with the virus. Because if the virus was like super airborne, but I can understand them not protecting that. As far as Democrats want $600 to the American people. Big companies want the continue the $600. Democrats also want the moratorium for the renting. I guess this is to help people not get evicted from their places, which is dope. I think both sides want to do that. I think the only problem is the Democrats want some money to go into the American people's pockets when it does happen in some way, some form of incentive. So we soon shall see. At the end of the Chuck Schumer speech, he mentioned something about issues with mail-in ballots and stuff. Like the Democrats are ready to vote for their new, vote for their candidate, and so they want to make sure the mail-in absentee ballots go away and there's not a problem when they're mailed out. And so it seems to be some. People are ready to vote regardless of anything. Anyways, guys, I want to say thank you for watching. More on the way. If you're new, you discovered this channel, subscribe now. I'm covering the stimulus bill and what's going on with the Hills bill, but I will eventually move on to some other topics as well. Around this particular time, if you have any questions, I answer them. If you got any questions, regardless of this or other questions, I can answer them. I'll stay here for 1 minute and see. If not, then I'll just take off. Let me take this guy off right here. Okay. Put this there. I had released a new video out of my old apartment. Give you a little bit, show you how the building looks from outside, and this is more of a walk-in of where I stay and how much I paid, why I stayed there, and why I moved. So if you didn't see that video, go check that out. yeah, man, just want to thank you guys for checking in with your boy, and wherever you're at, I will hope you have a wonderful day. All right, guys. See you in the next video. Peace. And this is the awkward part when I'm trying to leave or end the live stream. It's like real slow to end the live stream.